Welcome, humans. I suggest you get comfortable, because today we are going to be reading a horror story from Reddit. And the original author and the story will be linked in the description. So, without any further ado, let us begin. Hi, I'm Mary, and yes, it's pronounced Mary. My mom wanted my name to be Mary, but my dad wanted it to be more unique. So I was left with Mary with an extra AR in the middle. I live in an old apartment and I had recently lost my job. So I needed to get a new one, and I saw a flyer at the bus stop for a job as a night guard at some office building about 5 miles from where I live. I thought I might as well apply. I always thought being a night guard at places like this would be fun, because who would want to rob them anyway? I called the number on the flyer and scheduled an interview. A couple days later, I got ready and left for the interview. That was my biggest mistake. I pulled up at an office building and went inside. There was a front desk with a smiling woman sitting behind it. Her smile looked forced and unnatural, and it gave me the chills. But I had to ask her where to go. She directed me to the 3rd floor of the building to a door labeled Mr. Dole's office on a shiny gold plaque. I entered the room and was greeted by a man who looked like he was in his mid-20s. He wore a pitch black suit with a red tie and a clean white shirt.
Come in, come in.
I'm here for the interview.
Ah, yes, take a seat.
Are you Mr. Doily?
Of course, why else would I be in this room? The security guard, correct?
Yeah.
Great. First, I need to ask you a few questions.
Oh, of course.
Alright, first off, do you have any experience in this kind of work?
Not really.
Okay. How would you react in a life-threatening situation?
I would do everything in my power to stay alive and protect everyone around me.
Alright.
And after some more questions like if I knew how to use a weapon and other questions about my ability to be a security guard, I had the job. 3 days later, it was my first day on the job, or night on the job. I was to work from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I entered the building and it was empty. There was a light above the front desk, which was the only one on. The woman was not sitting at the desk anymore. There was a paper on the desk and I walked over to pick it up. There were directions to my security office on it. I followed them and walked over to my office. In the office, the uniform was hanging on the wall and the lights were on. There was also what looked like an entire wall made of TVs. It looked like there were at least 60 of them. In front of the TVs, there was a table and a chair. I changed into my uniform and started to look at the TVs. I got bored pretty quickly, so I reached for my phone, but I couldn't feel it in my pockets. I had left it at home. I was so mad at myself. It was only 10:34, and I had to be here another 8.5 hours. I spent 2 hours looking at all the cameras and trying to map them out. I found a map of the building in the drawers of the desk. So I tried to use that to help me map the cameras. After that, it was 12:57, so I started to look around the office when I saw something move on one of the monitors. This startled me, and I ran over to the TVs to see what it was, but there was nothing. I had left the paper I had found on the front desk in the security desk. I went back to look at it, and there was something on the back of it. It said, "The rules. Rule 1. If you see a blurry figure run past one of the cameras, but it does not appear on any other monitors, ignore it. Rule 2. If someone knocks on your door and asks, 'Why are you here?' then say, 'I lost my keys.' You will find the keys labeled J Closet under the desk. If they say anything else, Do not do anything else and just ignore them until they go away. I stopped reading. This was making no sense. Another hour passed before anything else happened. At 1:43, I looked at a wall, and 3 doors appeared. I jumped back in my chair, rubbing my eyes. I thought I was going crazy. I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe the list of rules might have something to say about this. I looked at the paper, reading the words rapidly till I found it. Rule 10. If doors appear in your room, do not open them under any circumstance. Instead, knock on each door the same number of times as many doors there are. If you hear anyone say, "Why are you here?" respond, "I lost my keys." You should get keys saying emergency exit. You will not need these keys unless you are in serious danger. So I knocked on each door 3 times. After the middle door said, "Why are you here?" The voice sounded like an old lady who never had a glass of water. I lost my keys. And under the door slid keys labeled emergency exit. Then the doors were gone like they were never there. At this point, I was scared. Am I in danger? I spent 2.5 hours paranoid in that office before at 3:15, a thing appeared on the TV. Its black body moved like warm syrup as it rose from the floor and took its form. It shaped itself into a tall, slender human. Its arms and legs looked like they were breaking with joints in the wrong places, moving in the wrong directions. It turned pale gray, and its face still haunts me. Its eyes were pitch black, and it looked like they were popping out of its head. Its nose was just 2 slits in its face that looked like they were carved with a knife. But its smile, that smile was so unnaturally wide, it reached all the way up to its eyes. And its teeth were so black I almost thought it had none. It turned to the camera. I wanted so badly to scream and run as far away as possible, but I couldn't. I was frozen in place. I could barely breathe. It moved closer to the camera until all I could see was its face. It was like it could see me through the screen of the TVs. Tears rolled down my frozen face, and somehow it made it smile wider. Suddenly, it was like gravity was getting stronger and stronger until my body fell to the ground. I hit my head so hard I passed out. When I woke up, I was in so much pain. I stood up and looked at the clock. It was 5:56. There was a trail of black liquid leading from the door up to where I had been laying. It was in here with me. I didn't know if it was still here. Then I remembered the list of rules. I ran to the desk and read the paper. Rule 7. If something starts to rise from the floor, get away from the view of the monitors. If you cannot do this, never, ever look in its eyes. I didn't do any of this. I started to cry, thinking if I would ever be able to see anything beyond this office ever again. But then I realized it was already 6:06. I only needed to make it 1 more hour. I read Rule 3. Do not leave the office before 7 a.m. You're much safer here. I sat in my chair and leaned back and tried to relax. But when I opened my eyes, there it was, on the ceiling. I screamed and fell off my chair, and then I ran to the other side of the room. It fell to the floor. I could see the intelligence behind its eyes, and now it was doing this for fun. It was pure evil. It started to slowly creep towards me, then stopped. It looked at me in my eyes. I quickly looked away. Then it lunged at me. This caught me off guard as I fell down. Its face hit the wall as I ran towards the door. I hesitated to open it, then I turned around and watched the thing start to get up. Then it suddenly turned its head to look at me. Its neck should have been broken, but it was still slowly standing up. I opened the door and rushed outside. I glanced at the clock. It was 6:17 before I slammed the door. I could hear its bones cracking and popping, and then it stopped before I heard rapid footsteps and banging on the door. I ran down the hallway, faster than I ever had before. I could hear it behind me, banging against walls as it turned corners. I got in an elevator and begged the doors to shut, and just as they were closing, it was in front of the elevator. When the doors shut, I could hear its laugh, a sickening laugh as it was enjoying this. In the elevator ride from the 10th floor to the 1st, I realized I had been crying this entire time when I was running for my life. When I reached the front door, I bolted down the hallway past the front desk and to the door, but the security gate was down. I fell to the floor in desperation, banging on the metal gate as I slid down in defeat. I curled myself up and cried, waiting for that thing to reach me and drag me away into the darkness of the office building to do whatever sick and twisted things it wanted. After a few more minutes, I heard the gate opening. I looked up, and it was Mr. Doyle. I was so happy. I hugged his legs before he asked me to let go. He held me up and asked me how was my first night, and I didn't know what to say. I started breaking down, and then told him what happened. Then he looked at me confused and said,
"You didn't follow the rules?"
You knew about this?
Of course I do. We need someone here every night to make sure those things stay entertained.
Entertained? But he explained to me that they can't do anything else. They can't get rid of them. And if no one is there at the night, they come out during the day and attack the employees. I understood now. Then Mr. Doyle handed me an envelope with 1,500 inside.
"Here's your first paycheck. I hope you decide to come tomorrow."
Then he walked inside the building. I got in my car and drove home. I don't know if I'm going back there tomorrow, but I think I might.